Hey there, all you fabulous souls. It's Rafe, your friendly neighborhood wolf counselor. Did you know that that's the meaning of my name? It's a name that dates all the way back to the 8th century in ancient Norse and in Middle English. It's a really, really old name, and I think it's kind of cool now that I am a life coach. I feel really comfortable with my name now, but when I was growing up, to be honest, I hated it. To be more honest, when I was growing up, there were a lot of things I hated about myself. So, as promised, let me take you down memory lane here. So, picture the 60s and 70s. What do you think of when you think of that? Maybe some disco balls, bell bottoms, and, well, not so much on the acceptance front. I grew up in South Africa at a time when the country was pretty good at keeping information out of the country that the government did not want the people to see. We were on the very southern tip of Africa and really, really far away from Europe and the USA, where cultural revolutions were underway. The government ensured that we didn't see very much of that. We did not have TV when I was growing up, and the government censored all movies, magazines, and books. So I had no access to anything that most gay teenage boys might have seen on the magazine racks of their local bookstores. Censorship is really, really effective at controlling the minds of the people, and a government that uses censorship correctly can actually keep a country frozen in time. South Africa was frozen in time. I remember the first time that I figured out that there was something wrong with me. I was about 13 or 14, and I had what many boys around that age have, my very first erotic dream. The problem was that my dream involved being kidnapped and seduced by a pirate. Yeah, a pirate. I can still remember how I felt that night when I woke up. So much shame, so much angst. What was wrong with me? Why did I get turned on by a male pirate of all things? Identity is really important when you're becoming a teenager. Who are you? What defines you? Who are you attracted to? It's a really confusing time, and even more confusing when you have no context and no one to talk to about it. I began noticing that I was attracted to men and boys, and I was really attracted to them. I could not help but look and stare, but I had no idea what was wrong with me. The closest thing that I could think of was a reference in the Bible that talked about men laying with men and calling them sodomites. So I looked that up in the dictionary. And I had just enough information there to realize that my thoughts were really sinful. I just knew I had to keep these dirty thoughts that I was having a secret. Nobody could find out. Luckily for me, my dad had a fairly extensive library in his home office, and on the bookshelf, there were a couple of books about male anatomy and human sexuality. In the book about human sexuality, I found a chapter that referred to something called the Kinsey report and the Kinsey sale. And it gave me just enough information to know that I was likely one of that very rare group on the scale that were called homosexual. I was mortified and horrified. I had it confirmed. I was one of the defectives, the people that they talked about in church that would be going to hell. At that point, my life became hellish. We had a pool at our house, and it was a mecca in summer for anyone that my mom and dad knew. We had lots and lots of pool parties, lots of barbecues. In South Africa, that's called a braai. And with it came a lot of opportunity for me to stare at men in bathing suits. I would secretly be so turned on by them, but spend hours that same night laying awake and praying to God to fix me. I used to pray to God to make me like girls. The problem was, I didn't find girls in any way attractive. I liked what they wore, and I loved their long hair, but when it came to boobs or anything else that straight boys might be staring at, I had absolutely no interest. All I knew at the time was that I had a terrible secret, and I needed it to be kept that way. And I did. I really, really did, really successfully, all the way until I was 18 and got to college. But that's a story for another video. I was a gay male back then, but I did not know that word. I had no context for it. I did not know anybody else that was gay. The words that I used to describe myself and my identity were defective, homo, fag, Nancy boy, morphe, and above all, sinner. By the way, morphe is a derogatory term in South Africa for people that are gay. The problem with identity is that it's persistent. No matter how much time you want to ignore it, no matter how much time you spend trying to ignore it, ultimately you can't change who you are. When I finally figured out that God was not going to do anything to fix me, I began thinking about ways that I could kill myself. Honestly, I did. I would spend hours sitting on top of the chimney at our house, which was really high, by the way, and I'd think of what would happen if I were to just jump off. Since I'm here today, obviously I didn't do that. But looking back with hindsight, I now know why my friend Wilson killed himself at age 13. Though he and I never dared talk to each other about what we were hiding, when I think back, I can say with certainty that he was just like me. Maybe things would have turned out differently if we'd been brave enough to talk to each other. We'll never know. The reason that we decided to make Ash Davenport, the main character in our upcoming novel, The Book of Aeon, gender non-binary, is to spark a much-needed conversation about identity. It's a topic that needs to be talked about now more than ever. In the community that I grew up in, everybody's opinion was that being a morphe or a fag was a choice. Sin, after all, is a choice, isn't it? No matter where you were in the 60s, if you were a gay male, most people believed that it was because you were choosing to act on unnatural impulses, not because you were born that way. Today, we are more comfortable having gay people around. At least, it's a lot better than it used to be. But we have a long way to go. In the same way as being gay is not a choice, realizing that you identify as the opposite gender from the body you were born into, or that you do not identify as any specific gender, is not a choice either. As a society, we need to be more open to allowing people to embrace their identity and not impose our own beliefs or values on them just because their identity is not the same as ours. In the Book of Aeon, the mysterious guide who appears in Spokane to help Ash Davenport come to terms with who they are is like a guardian angel. Aeon is the embodiment of the guide that I wish had shown up for me when I was in that time of darkness and confusion. I know that many of my straight friends think that things are so much easier today. After all, we now see gay people on the television, gay marriage is legal, and it's illegal to discriminate against gay people in the workplace. Or at least it is in the state of Washington. I will agree that we're not in the dark ages like we were when I was growing up. But are things as good as they should be? No, they're not. 25 states do not have protection for gay workers. That means that firing somebody just because they are gay is legal in those places. There are states that are going backwards and making it impossible to mention anything about what is considered the gay agenda in schools. Trans people's rights are under threat, and many believe that if the Republicans win the next election, there will be even more effort to undo all the progress that has been made. In the Book of Aeon, Ash Davenport struggles with their own identity. Hopefully, this will connect to readers out there who will benefit from the discussion around identity and see that they are not alone in their own struggle, no matter what it is. Identity is highly complex, and so often we try to be something that we are not because of the expectations of others, or at least because we think that others have that expectation of us. How many of you out there watching this want to fit into that perfect size 0 or want to have that six-pack killer body, but the body you were born with simply is not designed to be that way? How many of you long to be a different skin tone because you believe that life would have so many more advantages if only you had a different skin tone? How many of you would like to be taller than you are, or shorter than you are, or a myriad of other qualities that if only you could change who you were, you would fit in better? If you can identify with any of this, please subscribe here on this channel, where I'll continue to have this conversation, or the Book of Aeon website, if you are interested in knowing when the Book of Aeon will be published. Dustin and I really believe that there is something in there that will resonate for people who struggle with identity in our book. In the meantime, if you are struggling with your own issues of identity, go to my website and book a complimentary session with me, and let's explore how I might be able to help you and support you on your journey. My website address is right on the top of the screen. And if you're a member of the LGBTQ plus community, I am especially well equipped to help you, as I have walked in your shoes and I have made it to the other end. I can support you on your journey. Thanks for watching, and have a beautiful day.